We are live. Can you see where it says we are live? So for everybody who's watching on Be Kind, No Excuses, at least I hope it's going live on Be Kind, No Excuses, and not in a completely random group that I'm a member of. Yeah, we're definitely there. We're definitely there.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
Hello, everybody. Oh, what a shambles. Oh, and now the button's come up so I know where to end the broadcast, because ladies and gentlemen who are watching, I was really worried because I didn't know how to switch it off. It's like getting in a car without knowing where the brakes are.
Oh, well,
okay,
we've been there a few
right,
times.
I'm going to try and be slightly serious, although we're not very serious. And I would just like to welcome Barbara to Be Kind, No Excuses this evening. Thank you very, very much. I'm Ree, I'm in Whitley Bay, and I, along with Portia Powell, run the Be Kind, No Excuses group for people. It's a discussion group about abusive relationships, all kinds of relationships. And tonight, Barbara's joined us, which is fantastic. So I'm going to hand over to Barbara, because Barbara, everybody would like to know a little bit about you, please. Where are you and what are you doing?
All right. Hello, my name is Barbara Ellis, and I'm in just north of Stirling and near Dunblane in Scotland. So we're not in the same country, but we are in the same room, I believe. Anyway, yes, I'm what am I? I'm a jack of all trades, I think, but I am a master of a few of them as well, which is quite nice. Just why I've come on, Ray and I had a conversation, and she invited me to come and chat to you with regards to some of the therapies that I do, but one in particular, the havening technique. But I'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing I do is run a farm. I moved up here about 18, 19 months ago. Actually, I might be going on for 20 months. I moved here to Scotland with my family, and we opened a farm, and we're now trying to turn it into an ecology, health-giving, health and well-being centre. It's a lot of work to do. It's massive, the project that we've taken on, but this is all part of what I do with helping people with mental health issues. And it can be things like stress, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. And all of this is merging together with the therapies and coming here and having an opportunity to switch off from the world, the society, and from your job, from everything like that. And that's why we want to do this here at the farm. We have animals, so you can walk with the animals, you can go and feed them. You can just sit with them. Some of the lambs just let you sit with them. It's really lovely. And the pigs absolutely love it. Then it's an opportunity also for people to come in and see what life on a farm is like, and to help out if they want to. They can come and volunteer their time. So that's that part of it, which merges in well with what I do with my therapies.
That's fantastic.
The
idea of coming up to the farm and staying in the caravan that's got no electricity, for me, is absolute bliss.
Yeah,
I will do that, and I will love it, because I could just sit in the middle of a field in a shed, really. As long as I was warm, as long as I'm warm enough, I'll be happy, you know. So the idea of having that sort of whole space with no sort of, I mean, obviously it's a modern farm and you've got things, haven't you? It's like you're in one of your little, what you call your little houses,
tiny home.
A tiny home, yeah. So which are fantastic, but the fact that you've got that space where people can go and hug a pig, I mean, oh my goodness, what could be more fabulous than like hugging a piglet? It's just
tickle their tummies.
Yeah. And also I've got it right this time, because alpacas, yeah,
we've got alpacas as well, and we can walk with the alpacas. We're actually training the cria, which are the 1-year-old babies. We're training them to become our new walkers, because we're selling on the older boys, and the 3 younger boys, we're going to be training them. So it's an opportunity to come and help us train them as well as have a walk with them. So lovely.
That's just amazing. That's just to me, that sounds idyllic, absolutely idyllic. But one of the things I think people would be interested in is what you do with your therapies. And in your bio, what you sent me, it says you believe in the power of human resilience. Could you explain that for us, please?
Yes, indeed. Well, if you think about a lot, I'm sure people that are in your group have experienced some kind of trauma at some point in their life. And in relationships, it can be quite significant. That's just one aspect. Resilience is built on nurturing, and nurturing starts at childhood. And a lot of our resilience as we grow older is changed depending on what is maybe how we live our lives. Now, when children are very young and they're looked after, nurtured, taken care of, rather like you use the scenario of a garden. You look after your garden, your plants will grow, your trees will grow, your grass will grow, because you've watered, you've nurtured it, you've fed it. And it's a bit like that with children. We nurture them, we look after them, we give them the best we possibly can, and we help them to grow strong and resilient. And if things happen to them, we give them the strength to continue with that resilience. If you look at it the other opposite side of that, if children grow up in an environment where there's abuse or they're not looked after, they're having to look after themselves, they're experiencing traumas day by day. Now that could be in the family or it could be in school. It can be done, depending on what happens in school. Teachers can affect children big time. And the resilience can get knocked. It's not nurtured the way you would hope it would be. And as they grow older, the way they cope in life is different. Now, that's what I call about resilience. Even if you have had a trauma, it's amazing how much you can change how you feel and how you cope after that trauma by giving someone some extra help, perhaps through some of the therapies that I do. But you'll be amazed if you think about how people go through lives and through the traumas that they do have in life. A lot of them survive it. Okay, it may not be how they want to do things, but their human resilience. We want to survive. We want to do well. And I am a great believer if you give somebody that little bit of a hand up, that little bit of a help, that resilience can come back and they can go back to childhood and sweep away all the bad stuff almost and start again and build on that resilience. And that's what I believe very much in my own scenario. If we've got time to just quickly run through that, is that when I was a child at school, I wasn't bullied. Well, I was bullied a bit by my own peers, but the teachers had a real love for me. Not they loved to just put me down, make me look as if I was stupid, made me feel like I couldn't do things. I hated school. I absolutely hated it. And I did the thing that a lot of people will do and just accept that's the way it is, because you're not allowed to speak back. You're not allowed to stand up for yourself when you're young. You've got to just take what an adult says. And it wasn't until many years later when something happened to me that triggered something. And it was to do with speaking. It was to do with actually something like this. You wouldn't have caught me doing this about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And especially online as well, because you're like, oh my goodness, it's just so foreign. But anyway, this whole scenario of talking about myself, talking about my therapies, I wouldn't have done this 10, 15 years ago. But I now have the confidence to do it because I've havened myself through the traumas that I experienced in childhood to build on the strength and the resilience that I had from my parents. My parents gave me so much resilience, but there was this aspect where even they said to be quiet when you wanted to speak. And that's what I have been able to do. I've been able to speak now, and I'm confident in what I speak about. And I love telling people about it and how they too can be like that.
Yes, because one of the scariest things is speaking, isn't it? There's research to say that speaking in public, people absolutely hate it. It's like their worst nightmare. Do you think that might link back to when we were children? Like, because children, certainly when I was growing up, it was like children were seen and not heard.
Absolutely. definitely. And
do
that
you
is,
think do you think that links to the public speaking for you?
definitely. It's a lot of how we are in adults is based on, goes back to childhood. Not everything, but I mean, some people are just so confident they could, they've got that confidence, it's within them. But there's a lot of people who, I think, we can classify ourselves in different groups. There's the people who don't care. There's the people who just go for it and they have the confidence to do it, and they're the people that you think, oh, I wish I was like them. But we're not all like them. We're not all this kind of out there and in your face kind of thing. I'm a much more gentler person in that I always sort of look at things and think, do I feel safe in there? Do I feel like I'm going to be okay? And a lot of the time you think, what are people saying? What will they think? And it's that all of this stuff comes through and you're thinking, where does that come from? Why do we always worry about what people say about us? And it stems from probably in childhood as well. It's, people talking about behind your back, and even your parents may be saying something to you that will resonate in your brain. You won't remember it, but something is moving about. Our subconscious holds so much. It's all our memories, it's all our experiences, it's all our perceptions, and it's all our beliefs are held in our subconscious. And it's only when something triggers it at some point that it'll come into our thinking. But we are always watching and looking and thinking, what are people thinking about me? Am I dressed okay? Is my hair all right? Who cares? It doesn't matter. But I'm confident now that it doesn't bother me what people think. If they either like me or they don't like me, and I'll go out there and I'll give it a go. And that's one of the things that what I've done with my own therapies has helped me to get that confidence. And I love to share that with people. It's so simple in a lot of ways, but it's so powerful as well.
The thing is, with when you're a child, your childhood brain development and all the things that are going on, it's like you're hardwired, aren't you? You're hardwired with all those things that are there. Like this group, because we've been talking about different kinds of relationships and trauma and stuff, I've been waking up in the middle of the night and going, oh my God, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. And things have been like switching on in my brain. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no wonder some of the behaviors that I have now from learned behavior, or, I was told what to think, not how to think.
School does that to you, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's I mean, I hated school. I did quite well in school, but I detested it because I don't I know I've got the confidence now because I decided when I was like 40 that I didn't care what people think. Like, what people think of me is none of my business. Do you know what I mean? So I can do this. But back then, like in school, they would make you read from the book, and it would be a class of 30, and I would be reading from the Bible because that's the kind of school I went to. And it just meant that like 29 other kids, teenagers, were focused on you when you were doing that. And that to me was like really traumatic.
Yeah. And if you think about it, some kids would love that. I quite liked reading. I quite liked showing off when I was a kid. But as I grew older, I began to get that suppressed a little bit in school and by my teachers. But it was my saving grace in the end was reading. I just absolutely loved reading. But not everybody does. And it is that focus on you, isn't it? You're kind of thinking, again, what are people thinking? Am I doing it right? And your teacher's response will have determined how well you did it.
Yeah.
And how well you felt about yourself afterwards. And that
was
is
gorgeous.
It's amazing how we adults, we've been through childhood, but we still inflict stuff on our kids that in some ways may be traumatizing them too. But we can't always be thinking about everything we say and do. We try, don't we? Those of us who are a bit more aware.
You have to be mindful of how you influence other people, because over your children, you've got like ultimate influence over your children, haven't you? But it's not just your children. It's like when you're in a position of authority and you say something, people remember you more than you remember them. So it's really important to be careful about what you're saying and how you say things.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, because, you know, I always try and be on the positive side. When everything I've ever said to my kids, I've always said to my kids, you can do anything you want. You just have to work for it. You can do anything. As you know, I wouldn't want them restricted. I mean, my eldest son, I used to say to them, you know, you can go to university, you can leave, and you're going to have a fantastic time, and you go to uni, and it'll be brilliant, and then you'll go and travel the world. And my son lives in Sydney, and he couldn't be any further away, because I just want them. And my daughter lives in Leeds, and she's got a fantastic career ahead of her. She's amazing, but I've never put any restriction on my kids. You know, maybe sometimes they didn't. Well, not Ellie, but because she's like super brain. But my son, he had to do one of his sixth form years again, and I was like, well, just do it again. That's fine. Just do it again. There's not,
well, if you think about the pressures that children are under these days, like, you know, this business with COVID that kids haven't been to school, does it matter? No, because do you know what? They've got the rest of their lives to learn. It doesn't all have to be crammed in the 15, 16, 17, 18 years of their lives.
Exactly.
For me, it's like, this has been for some, I know it hasn't been an easy experience, but for some, it's been an opportunity to do other things rather than sitting at a desk and learning reading, writing, and whatever else they do. It's been, I think that, I know for some parents it's been really hard because of not being able to work and the money and everything, and that's been a lot of stress created by that. But the pressure's now back on the children to go back to school and to learn what they haven't learned in the last year.
Why? Nothing's happened.
It's just crazy. Let them be where they were and let them just go from there on. If they have to do another year, let them do another year. Does it matter? In the scheme of things, it doesn't really. But the pressure of society puts a lot of stress on our children. And I'm a great believer in children will get there when they're ready. If we let them, if we push them, they're more likely to pull back.
You don't stop learning because you leave school.
Oh, God,
it's a lifelong process, isn't it? And it's crazy because I know people have had a really hard time, and I really admire parents, especially when they've got, like, you know, kids of different ages, you know, and I was talking to somebody today, he's got a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. How do you homeschool 12-year-old, 8-year-old, and 4-year-old without just going, you just go play something while I do this? Do you know what I mean? You can't like beat yourself up because it's a lifelong process, and it doesn't matter if you're 4 years old if you can't quite read yet. What the hell? Most kids in Europe aren't even at school at 4 years old. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. But it's about being positive about it.
Indeed, yeah. And I'm a great advocate of the Scandinavian schooling. Don't send your kids to school till they're 7 years old.
I think they
just let them play.
I think they should. You know, who needs to learn the alphabet when you can draw pictures of rainbows and stuff? Yeah, absolutely. My kids were always had paint and crayons and felt tips. Actually, within reach of me, there's always coloured pens, because it's, you know, I kind of draw pictures more than I write. And you've got to let kids be creative. Not every kid's creative, you know, just let them make mud pies or grow things and, you know, plant seeds to make plants. And that's far, far more education than like what's the... I did learn how to calculate the angles in a pyramid, actually, because that's what they do with GCSE maths. Yay!
All right, I've forgotten how to do that.
I was like, what on earth? But yeah, so yes, thank you. For anybody who's watching, or anybody who's watching on replay, if you've got any questions for Barbara, please put them in the comments. And what I'm going to do is I'll go through and pick up on them, and we'll answer them. So, Barbara, you mentioned havening. Could you tell us a little bit about havening?
Yeah. Okay. Well, havening is a neuropsychosensory therapy techniques, which have been around probably about 20 years. It was developed by two doctors, Dr. Ron Rudin and his twin brother, Stephen Rudin. Ron was the main driving force behind it. He had been watching Paul McKenna, the hypnotherapist, doing EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. And he was fascinated by this because Ron Rudin is a neuroscientist and a psychiatrist, I think he is. I think I've got that right. And he's absolutely fascinated by the human brain. Anyway, he was watching something with Paul McKenna, and he asked to meet Paul, and they got together. And he and his brother and Paul came together to look at how this was affecting the brain by tapping. I don't know if you know about EFT, but you tap on various points on the body, they're acupuncture points, and they do. It's like what do you call it? Oh God, I've forgotten. Neurolinguistics as well, where we're using particular words and phrases to distract the client, to help them through trauma and stress and phobias and various other mental health issues. And Ron was very fascinated by the results that we were getting, but he then went on to look at, well, what is touch? Is it touch that's doing this, or is it something else? And he came up with the Havening touch, which is unique to the Havening techniques. And basically, it's stroking your arms, and it's using the sensory part, the sense of touch, to stimulate the brain in a different way, which helps. And using distraction techniques, we can switch off the trauma and the chemical reactions going on in the brain through touch.
Okay.
And this is what they've discovered using the Havening techniques. And even Paul McKenna, who is world famous hypnotherapist, he uses Havening as well. He actually said that it's one thing that gets the results a lot faster than even hypnotherapy, which is quite phenomenal, really. And there's another gentleman, Stephen Travers. He's been with the Havening group for about 15 years, and he's a trainer. And he was saying that he's always looking for the quick fix, if you like. And he said the elixir is Havening. It's been it's changed people's lives phenomenally. And I have to say, it changed my life because it got me speaking, which is wonderful. But if I can just give you a quick story, which is you can actually see this on havening.org. If you go on there, there's a video there. During the London bombings, there was a policeman who had experienced being there and the aftermath of it all. And for 10 years afterwards, he suffered from post-traumatic stress, and he found himself going into buildings, and if he was like a pub, for instance, he was going to have a meal with his family, he would sit in a corner so that he could see the door. He was so terrified that someone was going to walk in there and bomb the place. And this is how he lived for 10 years, and this constant stress flooding his body. And it was affecting his whole life. His children were being affected, his marriage was affected. And his wife said to him that Paul McKenna was coming to this Havening thing, and he was looking for somebody to help. And she says, I want you to put you forward, and I want you to go and see him. And he did. And he came up on stage, and Paul McKenna took him through the Havening. And this gentleman went from being a traumatized, almost neurotic, almost ready to commit suicide, to this confident, he got his life back, basically. I met him 2 years after, when I was doing my own training. He came up on stage and he told us his story. And he said if it hadn't been his wife pushing him to do this, he doesn't know if he would be here today. And the fact that his life within half an hour of doing the Havening techniques completely changed. His association to the trauma was switched off. This is what it does. It changes the neurology in the brain. And it's when you see it happening, it's absolutely phenomenal when you see somebody realizing that they no longer have the attachment to the emotion of the trauma. They remember the trauma, but they don't have the same emotional attachment to it. And it can change your life. And that's what it does. It's just brilliant. I can't advocate it enough. I just think that if everybody who suffers from trauma, anxiety, stress, post-traumatic stress, phobias even, and some other mental health issues It's such a powerful technique done with somebody who understands how it works. You can do self-havening, but if you have a trauma, you really need to see a havening therapist, because they take you through the process in such a way that it releases that anxiety, that stress, and it gets you back to what would hopefully be normal.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for that. I'm sure there are people in the group, and Lynn Bowers just put, it really does work. It's amazing in the comments.
Oh,
So,
thank you, Lynn.
it's
Thank
so
you.
powerful. So thank you so much. What I'll do is I'll put links for your website for the farm and links for your havening in the chat when we're done. And then anybody can get in touch with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
If
people want to reach out to me on your group, because I'm a member of your group as well, if you want to message me, I'd be happy to go that channel rather than going through the website and everything. If you want to actually message me and have a chat, I do a half-hour briefing chat with people to begin with, to see if we're a good fit, because not everybody would want to have havening with me, but there are hundreds of havening therapists out there now, and you just go into the havening.org website if you want somebody closer to you, or if you're happy to do it online, if you're like yourself in Northumberland, Ree. It's, I do it online, and it's quite possible to get the same results whether you're doing it distance or in one-to-one. It's better if it's one-to-one, but it still works.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm just having a quick look at the comments. Everybody's saying hello. Kylie's saying, oh, good luck with that farm, man. It sounds an epic project. Well, get yourself up there, Kylie. Get yourself up there, cuddle a piglet. It would be fantastic.
Well,
and
we have
Jackie,
sorry, can I just say we have the basic caravan with no water and heating, but you do have water, isn't it? But we also have
I'm going to stay in the caravan.
Upmarket tiny home where you can have a little bit more of a comfort and all the mod cons.
I don't want the mod cons. That's my problem. I want to go back in time.
You can have whatever you want.
Back in time would be fantastic. But we've got electricity, so yeah, I just don't want electricity. It does my head, and I can't stand it. But it's a necessary evil for me. And Jackie's saying she was fortunate that every Sunday around the family table we talked, and we had open table and could raise anything, ask for advice or help without being judged. Things changed when I was facing divorce. I felt questioned and misunderstood, and the message was, give it another go, which is very strange considering, Jackie, that you had such supportive parents. But marriage is a funny thing, isn't it? And back in the day, it was like, have to, give it another try, be better at this, and that is a whole different conversation. And Jackie's actually going to come on the group in a few weeks' time and talk about her story. So thank you for that tonight, Jackie. Who's that? I can't see who that is. Who wants the tiny home, please? Somebody wants a tiny home. I just want a tiny caravan with no electricity.
You can come up and have a visit.
And a bit of Calagas, that's what I need.
I live in a tiny home. I actually
so
live in one. It's a lot smaller than the one that we rent out, but it's just got one bedroom, one little bed up the stairs, and it's fully kitted out with everything I need. And the space is a bit cramped at the moment. I'm going to show you around because I've just got so much junk in here. But yeah, I live here. This is my life. This is my home. I have the great outdoors outside.
Beautiful. That's all you need, isn't it? Great outdoors. Thank you so much for coming on this evening. If anybody's got any questions, please put them in the chat. If you're watching on replay, just say hello so that we know that you've watched. And thank you for everybody who's come on live tonight. Barbara, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And massive success with your farm. You're crazy, but hug a piglet. You could sell vouchers. You could sell vouchers for people to come up. Don't get your nails done before you arrive. Just come and hug a pig for Christmas or something.
We do have adoptions. You can adopt an animal. You can adopt a cria. You can adopt a pig, and you can adopt anything you like. You can adopt a goose, a duck. We've got ducklings as well. So yeah, if you wanted to
So
adopt
jealous.
one, you can. Or
I'm
you
so
can
jealous.
sponsor one to help with the feed. So I will be putting all this on our website eventually, so keep an eye out for that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been an
Thank
absolute
you.
pleasure. Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.